Hi, everyone. I was listening to Gary Melton going off on his very favorite podcaster guest, Candace Owens. I mean, it really kind of is comical uh, how he just has become obsessed with Candace. Now, it'd be interesting. I was thinking, because before this, he just did shooting guns or I don't know what these military people would be doing. Um, so it'd be interesting to look at some of the stuff he did before, because it was funny. One time he slipped and he said that he had never wanted to cover the Charlie Kirk assassination and Tyler Robinson trial, but that like he had been obligated or something. And everybody's saying, oh, it was a payoff from this contract he got shortly after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Now he's coming out and saying, oh, that was a long time in the works. May not be. Everything was planned in advance. They, definitely wanted somebody who would be on their side. But I think it's just, see, people are jumping to conclusions about how conflict of interest is working, that, oh, it's a payoff all the time. No. So I think because Gary's wife is like real militant. I don't know if she was in the army as well or military, whatever service. Um, and the military people are, this is going to be and it is, excuse me, a big problem, uh, because the military has been used as a social climbing tool. You know, people who either come from violent homes or urban areas that are dangerous and want to get out of them, or rural areas where there's no jobs. And I mean, this has been the case for a long, long, long time. Uh, but so it's not, very few people have done it out of a sense of dedication to the country. Because if they really think about it, I mean, it's coming out now. I mean, like, this is, I've always been a pacifist against wars. I'm like, that solves nothing. And the older I've gotten and the more I've heard, the more I know all of these wars have been nothing but from the greed of a bunch of bureaucrats and oligarchs. Um, so, this whole thing, and if we want to, if anybody was really serious about protecting democracy, I'd have all sorts of followers on my YouTube channel and my activism website, Taking Back America for the People, uh, telling everybody in Washington, first thing first is clean up your freaking courts. Without a justice system that is something semblance to justice, um, we really can't start addressing the other issues. Um, so that's first thing first, and also getting rid of all of these just seat warming jobs. I mean, I have been saying for years, when Americans find out, taxpayers find out, and this is not just American taxpayers, because if you see what's going on in the international community, just as bad, find out how their money is being spent for a bunch of snot-nosed brats to go and party and wiggle their ass in front of a bunch of overinflated ego PhD academians or elected officials. I mean, Washington was created in order to serve the American people and not serve as a playground for a bunch of con artists, whores, and pimps. I mean, I was horrified when I got back in 2009 and I saw there was a casino that was being built at, what is that, National Harbor? I mean, I was with my brother and I said, my God, does Dad know? Have a freaking fit. I, he was such a dear man. If all the men in this world were like my father, we wouldn't be here. Um, so, God. And we're here because most of the women are following the lead of my mother, Ethel Kennedy. My mom, like, she dressed like Jackie O. My aunt on my father's side, he only had one brother. Uh, it's like the Ethel Kennedy, and my mom's like the Jackie O. Oh Lord, help us, help us, help us, help us. And so, and I mean, my two older cousins on my father's side, they are, I mean, talk about your Christian alt-right, and I'm always like, the ones who are anti-abortion are the first to send their kids off to war or want war. And my Lord, one time I was trying to say to mom that my mother, that Karl Marx wasn't evil. He was just like trying to explain how this whole industrial revolution thing would eventually play out. And I mean, I couldn't even get past Karl Marx, and I mean, she had one of her little hissy fits. And I just, roll my eyes with my siblings, and like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I'm just thinking of being up on a podium in a debate with my mother. Because if there's a public there, oh, it's going to go down real different. Witnesses? My poor dear father. So, yeah, I mean, I know how the whole Stockholm syndrome uh, thing works. Believe me, I saw it play out. So, anyway, I was listening to these two. Now, actually, it's extremely interesting because I have looked at Candace Owens' family, and she has her father is in Arizona and Phoenix, and they're LDS. So, and her grandfather recently died. He retired and he moved out there. Well, I guess to be near because his Candace's father's there, and then she has an aunt there who works for in real estate Berkshire Hathaway. So I'm like, oh, okay, great. Drinking and passing out Kool-Aid. I mean, this is the problem with the minorities, and and the foreigners. I mean, any of the social climbers, they don't. They just get in power and fame and fortune for them, power and control for them, and but they haven't done anything to better the communities from which they came. I mean, I'm like, why am I'm here sitting here, white privilege, and I'm the only one who's been saying, wait a second, I want to take this to the international courts, the new Jim Crow. When I read the new Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, I think, well, I should have to Google, look on my Amazon account and tells me when I bought the books. But many years ago, over a decade ago, that's for sure. And I said, this is when I was realizing, making the jump from the family court to the penal court system. We're dealing with the same shit. It's across the board. It is, again, problem of due process. Because one of the things that people pull out with me is, oh, well, it's civil court, it's family court, so it doesn't matter. You're not sending anybody to prison. No, you're destroying lives, but you're not sending them to prison. I mean, it's just this whole thing of writing off any type of problem with some stupid excuse is why where we are. So anyway, it just, like, why am I the only one? So what the frick is going on here? No. All of these minorities, this is why the Democrats have lost all support. They were supposed to be for the workers, the middle class. Well, no. And I mean, like Chris Hedges, you got Death of the Liberal Class. Tons of books. The markets are flooded with books and documentaries and all sorts of shit documenting what's going on. But it doesn't matter. You still have people who will defend. As long as they have money coming in and they're making money from this shit, there there's no epiphanies. I stopped believing in that a long time ago. I'm not very optimistic, I'll tell you. I don't know. I guess I keep on saying, okay, it's in God's hands. There's nobody at the helm of the ship, but I guess he is somewhere up there. Oh Lord, I just wish it would hurry. I am tired. I want to go home to my sons. Every Thanksgiving, I loved Thanksgiving. One of the reasons why I liked Thanksgiving was I lived abroad as well, so I was the only one who did Thanksgiving. But it was the only holiday that hadn't been completely commercialized. And, it was just a day of being thankful for what you had. And I count every Thanksgiving saying, please, please, Lord, let this one be the one where I celebrate with my sons. Oh, I never thought it would take me so long. When I left Spain, I thought, a couple of years and this is all wrapped up. I'm going to have to challenge the whole Spanish judicial system, but I'm thinking I'm going to get some help from these nonprofits, all of these freaking nonprofits in DC. Are you kidding? No, I mean, they give you shoulders to cry on, lots of pamphlets, lots of paraphernalia, with their rhetoric written on it, but no help. It's all a bunch of bullshit. I mean, come on, I've been run through the gauntlet for 20 years. I'm a whistleblower, yet none of the podcasters are any more interested than the journalists. So, and this, I digress again, but so Candace's family is in Phoenix. And as I say, her aunt, I'm sure she sees nothing wrong with what she's doing. But everybody who's in the urban luxury real estate market, and this is the glamorous one, I get it. Yeah, y'all, you're complicit. So just like the podcasters, just like the economists, just like the lawyers, just like the bankers, they're complaining about Candace's criticism of the Jews. Okay, well, no, I'm sorry, Candace. She's pointing out some pretty interesting things, and yeah, we got an issue there. But, you know, what about the African Americans? All they want to do is play the victim card. That's been indoctrinated into them. So anyway, again, then there is her family in the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, which is right next to Epstein Island. Well, there is some very interesting facts. An uncle of Candace. Is this an uncle? Let's see. Yeah, because it's her okay, so it would be a great uncle. Her grandmother's brother was the one who was doing the license for the construction, the property, the houses and everything on Epstein Island. And obviously, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised he was getting some money for that. And there was issues there. So she was going on over, you know, on all of that. And I mean, when I was looking at Candace's profile, I'm like, well, wait a second, because there's Arizona. I mean, I'm originally from Tucson. There's a whole bunch of people I know in Arizona of ruling elite. Some have passed away, like my parents, but you know, some of them are still around. I'm like, excuse me, you guys, look what's going on under your watch. And I've been posting about this shit for 20 years now on the internet. So nobody can say they didn't know. The same thing with Louisiana, same thing with Florida, same thing with Foxcroft, school in Virginia. Yeah. And then we get to the other side of the pond in Spain, France, and England. And we even in Portugal for my boarding school in England, that covers Portugal, India, all sorts of places, Angola, everywhere. That I go global. So it's like all of these people can't say that they didn't know the little ladies. Federation of American Women's Clubs overseas. It was started in 1931 under the belief that enlightened women around the world could do much to promote world peace. And I'm like, yeah, the key word there is enlightened, instead of backstabbing bitches who just want to get an invite to the embassy and the corporate affairs. So, you know, everybody can start pointing fingers at everybody else for corruption. So what they need to start doing is picking up mirrors and cleaning it all up. So this, you know, again, the St. Thomas, like people, you know, these are your communities. You're complaining that you were oppressed, that, you know, people exploited you and stuff. Well, aren't you all doing the same thing today? I mean, all of this complaining is just deviate attention away from what's going on in your house and what you're doing yourself. So here, let's listen to this. I'm pretty sure I put my stereo on. Yep. Okay, there we go.
To support. I won't be here too long. Colton, we appreciate you, buddy. Hated to see you go last night. Down there, you should be able to share your screen. Shannon, it says present down at the bottom of your screen, or should be a little like human icon. This is present or invite. Then it'll give you the option of what to share. For anyone that actually did watch today's Candace, let us know what's going on with that. Here we go. Give it up, Candace. Fort Huachuca is never going to happen. It'll never be a thing. She can't let it go. Russia is an America first. How dare she go up against the agenda? Sometimes the government doesn't lie, though. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. Look, I was thinking about this today because this is something that, like, this is not black or white. This is stupid binary thinking. It's like, oh, the government said it, they lie, so I have to believe something else. Like, the U.S. government is so big, so massive. There's so many agendas at play. I mean, and you can take the government and say that, but then you can take every single agency. There can be times where you have a wholly corrupt IRS doing a bunch of crazy things, even under Donald Trump's nose. But then you can have the FBI actually conducting a legitimate investigation, like we see with Charlie Kirk. And by the way, it's actually being led by.
I mean, I don't know how Gary Melton can say that we have the FBI actually conducting an investigation. I mean, that's like, this man is so in frickin' denial. He's so, you just mention the word Fort Huachuca and it sends the man into a panic attack. I mean, he's so, like, aligned and loyal to the military. And I mean, this is where we're going to come down to the choice of all of the military and all of the vets. That's what it's going to come down to. That's where we're heading. Armed conflict between a divided military. And they'll be killing each other. For decades and decades, they've been offering all sorts of training to all these guys. And it'll end up being used against the American people and against each other. That is where we are headed.
Utah FBI. So, the fact is our government is huge, and to just say that it's all corrupt all the time has never been true. But also to say it's never corrupt some of the time is also. I came here in Washington, 1981, been around for a long time, seen it all. For 20 years, I have been documenting the corruption. Now, all Gary has to do is go on to my activism website or my YouTube channel, or he can contact me. Contact me by email first, because I don't use my phone. I'm one of these people. Like, I'm one of these very strange people. I'm considered like I'm even more strange than like if an alien came down from a UFO. Because I'm not connected to my phone 24/7. This is really an addiction, people. I mean, it's real bad. This is as bad as your shopping addiction. So, God, I mean, this guy. Also not true. And I think you need a little bit of level of sophistication and a little bit of logic to apply that. And I'm telling you, like, what's crazy to me is I'm seeing more and more of these people. These are literal flat earthers. Most of these people that believe this nonsense. And unfortunately, there's clearly 6 million people following Candace right now that'll believe this nonsense. If you believe that all of those are true, I think that a lot of this is Russian bots. I think a lot of this is funded by Iran pushing her content and botting her content. Same thing with China and God knows who else, including Europe. I mean, none of these people like Donald Trump. All of these people would prefer any other candidate to be in there. And if they got to defeat him, and they can help defeat him through the means that we're talking about in the midterms, they'd be happy to do so. All right, Shannon, what you got there?
Gary, it's Jen.
Oh, sorry.
Is it the one where Milfar TV is comparing Candace Owens to Nazi rhetoric?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, let me pull it full screen and then I'll play it for you guys.
Sounds good, thank you.
Es ist eine kleine, wurzellose internationale Clique, die die Völker gegeneinander hetzt.
It's Jewish supremacists. They had everything to do with the Civil War in America.
They excel at creating the false dialectic, the North versus the South, the left versus the right. You got to wake up, especially if you're in America, okay? And they come over to America, and kind of the story that we're told is, oh, everyone just came with the clothes in their back and like made it big in Hollywood or made it big in modern psychology. And I'm like, no, America was a young country. We were very like susceptible to all of these things. Jewish people were the ones that were trading us. Jewish people were in control of the slave trade. They buried a lot of it to control the media. They just do, okay? One way or the other, Zionists control the empire medias. And it's only through actually engaging and reading these books that would never become movies, these books that you are not allowed to read, that you can truly understand like what's happened in this country, because we all recognize that something's not right. Wake up to who publishes these books and keeps us warring with one another. Christians versus Christians, right? Christians versus Muslims. Wake up and learn the true history of slavery. Jewish people, how they have accomplished things, this false dialectic, their means to accomplish running Western society, breaking apart Christian empires, gambling, a major vice, drugs, prostitution, sex, pornography. We Jews love pornography because we hate Catholics and we hate Jesus and allows us to crush the church. They want to make you guys think that this culture is okay because then they can subjugate your culture. Those people who are still, are still in positions of power, thinking it could be fair, thinking that we could just work hard, thinking that we could run a company, that we could launch this revolution where people were going to be happy in the future because America was the land of the free. No values that exist outside of the Talmud. You describe yourself as a Talmudic Jew, and I've learned what's in that Talmud. They think that we're animals, that they have a right to own us, that they have a right to make us worship them, that they have a right to lie to us, that they have a right to sue us and take everything that we have, that they have a right to deceive us. They will become whatever they have to become. They are like their brains are wired. It's a pathology. Like, their brains are wired to lie. Zionists. I've never seen anything like it. Brave generation people would think like I did. Like, oh my gosh, like we have to make sure that a Holocaust ever happens. We have to support Israel. Nope. Now we are reading the books. We're learning about how you've executed this. You've blindfolded the entire world to what you are. And what I think you might be is possessed by a real demon. This is for them a religious philosophy, a racist perspective that we are goyim, meaning cattle that are meant to be herded and ruled over. And there's a lot of people. And would they, if they could, mass kill everybody in this country? Yeah, they would. I believe people are psychopaths. I hate all of you. I think you guys are all a part of the same demonic entity. Your God is Satan. You guys are Baal worshippers. You will continue to kill and sacrifice children until you feel that demon rewards you. And I stand against you.
You're intense.
Yeah, this is how I feel about these people. They are satanic, right and left at the top. There's no life in these people. This is the synagogue of Satan.
Wow. This is how I really feel about these people.
Okay, she did say at the top, she brings up a lot of stuff, valid things. And for example, in the communications, this is how Robert Maxwell got his foot in the door and became so powerful in England. And he created, turned against him, and now his daughter's in prison because of the media. So, it's a double-edged sword. But again, you look at Hollywood, Harvey Weinstein, Metro Goldwyn Mayer, all of these guys, these big producers and the powerful people in Hollywood have been the Jews. Now, I'm trying, because William Hearst, I'm going to have to look back into, the history of Hollywood, because Randolph Hearst was involved in that and very interested. I mean, he was one of the pioneers and turned Hollywood into what it is, or helped turn it into what it is. So, and he was into the media. That's how he made his money in publishing. So it's not like, well, it's only been the Jews. Of course not. But there is a high concentration, and in the banking system, and this goes back to usury laws. And the Christian of, going back to Jesus, you can't, about not problems of charging interest. Now you got to charge some sort of interest because then, nobody has an incentive to lend their money to anybody else. But not like we're seeing now, and the banking systems are a mess. And you have a high level number of Jews that are involved in that. I mean, my Lord, we got Mike Milken, David Malpass, what's his name, Blankfeld, he's Goldman Sachs, buddy with Christine Lagarde. I mean, there's lots and lots of them. Every time you turn around, I'm like, Anne Sinclair, Dominique Strauss-Kahn, Marianne Seigart. The list goes on and on. Well, Seigart was Singer originally, changed by Rudy Singer. He was responsible for the 1929 financial collapse in Austria. Marianne Seigart's family, part of her family, entire branches of family tree were exterminated in the Holocaust. Oh, but all she cares about is cashing in and getting on a podium. So let's continue. This, oh, look, any criticism, it makes Candace or anybody else, anti-Semitic. And also they're talking about the Talmud. And I do need to, I want to read the Quran, but the Talmud is separate from the Quran, and she's making some interesting points and raising some interesting questions. All of this stuff has been tabooed to talk about. Oh, Lord, do I know. For so long. There's a lot of things that have been covered up in history. Lots and lots and lots and lots. In order to manipulate people.
And it's folks, can you imagine, let's say there's no Israel, there's no Jews on the planet. Do we think that pornography is suddenly gone? Do we think that prostitution, which essentially is another form of pornography, it's the oldest occupation for a reason. Look, everything that we just discussed would be prevalent in this country.
You can see how much respect Gary has for women. But look at the type of women he surrounds himself with. My favorite is Tamara Neely. I have to take a look and see what that girl's doing lately. Oh my God. Somebody help that child.
With or without Jewish people involved. I don't even know what the percentage of the Jews involved in these types of industries or things. I don't doubt that there's Jews involved in pornography. But you know what? I also know there's Italians. What about gambling? You think that's just a Jewish thing? I know there's freaking Irish.
Yeah. I'm all over the Italians and the Irish. Well, the Irish, that gets into my own family. That's with my mother. Her father's name, Scallon, was my mom's maiden name. When I went to Ireland, I was like, Scallon all over the place. Oh yeah, we got Irish blood as well, because there's the Cajun blood. So yeah. Oh, believe me, I got many of the issues and a lot of problems in Louisiana goes with that, and gets in my cousins. I've got one cousin who's been involved in real estate in Baton Rouge. Since I was a child. So yeah. And the Italians, well, Andrew Cuomo, governor, New York, what happened under his father? What happened under, what positive contribution has been there? Oh, and then we had the Camelot of Andrew Cuomo and Kerry Kennedy. We got the Kerry Kennedy clan. I call them the new KKK. Yeah, Houston, we got some problems. Now, this is not to say, I mean, it's not like I'm perfectly happy to sit down with any Christian, any Jew, and any Muslim and discuss their religion with them. I have nothing, I do need to read the Bible and the Quran to be able to, really, and I need to look into more. But also there's a whole bunch of scholars. There's one gentleman I saw, it's about the Christians, and how their persecution. So, I mean, I always heard from my mother how the Catholics had been persecuted in this country. And I mean, a lot of her abuse of my father was payback. So, this, it's just racism, in order to silence all discussion is an age-old tactic.
Italians, whatever, you name Latinos,
Yeah.
To sit there and be so dumb. You blame all of the world's problems on 0.2 of the population. It's just the dumbest thing that you can possibly say. One thing she said that I'd never heard of before, I would like an explanation. I don't know if you have heard this.
Everybody's.
She said, we know that Jews were the reason behind the Civil War. I think that was a new one for me. I've never heard that said, and I would love to hear the explanation behind that.
I have no idea, and I'm a big history nerd, and have gone into, all the way from ancient Rome to American history. I have never heard of the Jews being, a major player in the Civil War, or that they were major players in the slave trade.
Of course, the Jews financing the Civil War. I mean, everybody who was not born yesterday, and the Jews, for example, in the diamond industry, they're also omnipresent. I've, done jewelry and gemology for many, many, many years. And I mean, go to the diamond district in New York City, you'll see. Or in Antwerpen. I mean, I love going there. I mean, diamonds are not my big thing. Part of it is that's a racket. I mean, not as much as some of the people say, because diamonds are the hardest of the gemstones, and they have a lot of properties in industry. Because of this is the same thing with gold, and why, people are like, well, why is it so valuable? I'm like, well, gold, what makes them valuable is, not just the beauty, because women like to wear them, but the properties. And for example, gold, it'll be there forever. It's not going to erode or anything, and you can melt it down, remelt it down, and diamonds, they're one of the hardest things on earth. You need a cutting tool or something like that. They speculate on how the pyramids were so finely cut. Now that's also ancient technology, but I wouldn't be surprised if diamonds were used in that technology. I mean, I have no idea how it would work.
That's Candace. That one of her books she read, I guess. I don't. And then she goes with the Talmud, which that is not their. I don't know what it's called, but like that's not their religious book. Yeah. I mean, it's not a canon law book.
Yeah, it's not the Quran.
And from what I understand, it's basically like 800 years old. And it's a bunch of rabbis discussing the Jewish faith. So, I mean, imagine if we had a book of, say, Catholic priests from 800 years ago going over things.
Yeah.
There would probably be some not so friendly, possibly racist stuff in there as well.
Have stuff like that. We do have stuff like that.
Her bringing up the Talmud constantly.
And I'm sure she's never even entertained the thought that any of this stuff exists.
That's unfair.
I just decided to look this up to see if we get anything off of Grok, and I'll share this with you, just so that you guys know what I know on this. But this claim is baseless, anti-Semitic conspiracy theory with no credible historical support. Wow, imagine that. It originates from the long-standing anti-Semitic tropes about Jewish financial control, scapegoating, and secret manipulation of wars for profit. Tropes that have circulated for centuries that were amplified by fringe, far-right, and some Nation of Islam-linked materials. Imagine that.
Come on,
Jews were a tiny minority.
For
Look, nothing's changed since between now and the late 1800s. In the U.S. during the Civil War, roughly 150,000 out of 31 million Americans, many recent immigrants, they were divided like the rest of the country. Most in the North supported the Union. Those in the South, about 25,000, largely supported the Confederacy. Thousands fought on both sides, with estimates of Jewish soldiers proportional to or exceeding their population share. That'd be interesting. I want to look that up. Prominent examples include Judah P. Benjamin, a Jewish Confederate cabinet member, Secretary of State, etc., and various Jewish soldiers, contractors, and civilians on both sides. Jews owned slaves at rates similar to other Southerners of comparable wealth, not disproportionately. The war's real causes were sectional conflicts over slavery's expansion. States.
Yeah, it's not the ownership. It was the financing of the trade. Of course, in the ownership, they would be at the same, given the number of their population, because you have to understand the Jews were going to be a minority amongst the early colonists. I have to look into that because Candace was saying that, like, Jamestown, I think, I forget when it starts with a W, the guy. This is in the White Trash, the 400 Years Untold History in Class of America. They talk about that. So how many were of Jewish origin? Perhaps, at least in the financing of it. Yeah, sure. I mean, they had already, infiltrated England. They had started mainly in Europe, because I think these are the Hasidic Jews, I think they're called, from like Eastern Europe. And they were constantly, every time there was a boom and bust economy, it's like, okay, go elsewhere. And, we can go back, I say, particularly with the economists at the IMF, I'm like, okay, we can go back to the tulips in the 1400s, but like, we're talking about, and everybody kind of snickers because they know, yeah, that's when the boom and bust economy started. When you had, it started from almost the beginning. Now, did the tulip, crash or whatever it was called, affect? It didn't have much effect on the greater population, because most of the population is living in rural areas and pretty, relatively self-sufficient. Had a very detrimental effect for the few of them who were involved in it, but it was relatively isolated. Now you've got economies where that kind of shit is going to affect everybody.
Rights, economic differences, tariffs, industrialization versus agriculture, and Southern secession after Lincoln's election. Jews were accused of profiteering, smuggling cotton, or disloyalty. Union General Ulysses S. Grant issued General Order No. 1, expelling Jews as a class from his military district due to black market trading frustration. This reflected widespread stereotypes, Jews as greedy merchants, Shylocks, but was not evidence of causation. It was overturned by Lincoln. Circulation in the 20s.
My mother, my parents had 3,000 books at the end. They had to scale down when they went into the nursing home. And, but she was doing a lot of research into Lincoln. And she was like, oh, Lincoln, he was horrible. He was horrible. I mean, it's a shame. We still have, I think my brother said, about 100 books. And he said they kept the things where she had written things in the margin. I read some of this stuff that she was doing, just like everything. She just wouldn't finish it. And then, of course, blamed her children for having made her life miserable. Her husband and her children. Never looking in the mirror. So yeah, this current stuff and all of that, I am well familiar with.
20th century, Henry Ford's The International Jew pamphlets like Abraham Lincoln and Rothschild's, and later far-right text by Willie Martin, it claims Lincoln resisted these bankers, leading to his assassination by a Jewish plot. John Wilkes Booth was not Jewish. This is fabricated. That's the thing, is like, once you start digging into any of these things, there's so many lies that you come across with just a little bit of truth.
It's not necessarily lies, because also a lot of times the Jews have anglified or gentrified their names and generations ago. I mean, for example, Anne Sinclair, that was not her name. It was Schwartz, I think. A lot of them. Marianne Seigart, who was originally Singer. But then when they got to England, because it was her grandmother was ousted from Germany under the Nuremberg laws. And then when they get to England, they're the Germans. You can't win for losing.
It's sprinkled in so that it is somewhat believable. And that is just disinformation and propaganda at its core. That's what it does. It takes a little bit of truth and it just builds an entire narrative out of thin air, using those grains of truth so that it sounds believable and people are just deceived by it left and right.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it, is to sprinkle in a little bit of truth. It's the most effective way that I've seen. Absolutely. And to anybody out there that is one of, the Jew haters, every country that's gone hard against the Jews basically destroyed themselves. So it's not really a good idea.
I'm just laughing at
Well, I mean, every country that went hard against the Jews destroyed itself. I'm not exactly which cases she's talking about in history, but I think she's like making conclusions and connecting dots where they're not necessarily connecting.
Super chat over here. That's pretty funny. Well, let's get into our topics for tonight, because I think they're really interesting. And one of them is kind of sprinkled all throughout the Charlie assassination story, and that is the group known as UNF America, or the UNF America Tour, which were involved. We have Hunter Kozak that was allegedly part of this. I know Destiny has been a guest speaker of these people. So they have been involved, and they've been harassing TPUSA long before Charlie Kirk was ever killed. I got a couple of videos down here. Jen, if you want to throw, I don't know which one would take precedent out of all the ones that you have, but feel free to throw those up, and then we'll have Shannon talk a little bit about that.
This open debate like Charlie.
Oh, let me pull this down. I'm not setting you up for success. There you go. Go ahead.
For the UNF America Tour, which is basically just all those liberals that just follow Charlie Kirk around everywhere. So Elon Musk shared this post that says there's no prominent leftist anywhere that does open debate like Charlie does. So Z, the leader of the UNF America Tour, said this is what happened last time we tried to debate Charlie Kirk. It was Dean Withers standing to the side and all of them screaming, why won't you debate Dean, when they were on this college campus. And they were saying he was a you-know-what because he was refusing to. Do you know why he wasn't? Because he's already debated Dean and Parker over and over. See, what Dean and Parker were doing, they were following him around to each campus and trying to get in front of the line in front of everyone because they felt like they were more important than everyone else. And then they would ask 2 or 3 questions and Charlie Kirk would debate them. And then Charlie Kirk would be like, okay, next person. They would be like, no, let's keep going. When there were dozens of other people at these college campuses wanting to debate Charlie Kirk. The reason he went from college to college is because most college kids can't just drive around the whole country and follow him like Dean and Parker and Z can. So the people in the UNF America Tour try to make every single stop about them instead of having people that go to those schools getting a chance to debate Charlie Kirk because they feel like they're more important than all those college kids. Yet they'll paint it like Charlie was scared.
Yeah, and let's throw this one up there too.
Sorry. 10% of the vote.
Just basically.
I'm trying to play.
Is to organize electorally and win elections.
Her company, Soul Strategies, went 0 for 22 last year in elections. Like, hey, everybody.
Let me start this up again.
Our goal is to organize electorally and win elections.
Her company, Soul Strategies, went 0 for 22 last year in elections. Like, hey, everybody, if you're wondering why Z is focusing so hard on attacking Charlie Kirk and raising money through this UNF America Tour, it's because her company, Soul Strategies, was paid by 22 separate Democrat campaigns last year, and every single one of them lost their election. Shit, most of them didn't even make it through the primary. And how would I know this? Well, that's because it's public record. I can see who paid Soul Strategies for campaign work. Last year, her company took in $304,400.
See, it's all about party politics. Winning the election, winning the election, winning the election, winning the election. Throw more money into, we got to win. Our team's got to win. Our team's got to be in power. Us, 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 us. Is it any surprise that once the candidates get into office and all of the snot-nosed brats who have gotten their foot in the door into the political system by volunteering or working on campaigns, their loyalty is to the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. And for example, the infighting going on in the Republican Party, it's just for power of the Republican Party. It's not to change anything in the country.
$158. And every single candidate she was paid.
Unfortunately, what I'm seeing now with Candace is, I mean, okay, it was about Charlie Kirk, her friend who got killed, but now it is getting into more, she's giving her enemies fuel that this is personal, and, you know, positioning herself. Everybody's like JD Vance and a ticket with JD Vance and Erica Kirk. Well, let's see what a ticket with Candace Owens is going to look like. She's already said that she wants to run for president. I'm like, little girl, you are way too young to run for president. All of these people, even JD Vance, he doesn't have the experience to be president. He published a book and they stuck him on a podium. Yeah, let's get the young in power. Let's get the young in power, because they were born yesterday and they don't have a clue of what's going on in the real world.
To help get elected, fucking lost. Like Marianne Williamson for president? Yeah, they paid her $72,880. She very obviously didn't win. Morse for Maryland, who paid her $44,300. Yeah, he didn't even win the primary. David Mandel, who paid $23,000. He lost in the primary. We got Trey Hunt for Congress, paying nearly $20,000. Yeah, he lost. Quincy Barabee for Congress. Not only did she not make it through the primary, Fedora, Focht, Woody, candidate that they supported for 22. Not a single candidate that they supported was able to win. So yeah, she needs a new grift.
All right, so we're going to talk more about Z, Cohen, Sanchez in just a moment. But what we know is that she was tied into this UNF America Tour. She was one of the leaders behind it. And I just looked it up to confirm it. But we definitely have Hunter Kozak. He was officially listed. Kozak appears on the tour's website as one of the creators, content creators. The tours featured left-leaning influencers, debaters aiming to challenge conservative figures in events, particularly those from Turning Point USA. And for those of you who don't know, Hunter Kozak was the person asking the final question right as Charlie Kirk was shot. So there's a lot of linkage in here. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, we have Project Constitution, who is linking up with the UNF America Tour, who is the Charlie Kirk investigator that's trying to get to the bottom of all this. He is linking up with the UNF America group. And now UNF America and Zico and Sanchez is exposing these fake chapters that TPUSA has. And I think that's a good place to kind of stop and let you kind of take over, Shannon. Explain, you were explaining to me what they were essentially doing, and then take it kind of wherever you want to from there.
Yeah, she was basically, the video is called Ghost Chapters. And her, I guess, theory is there are not as many chapters as Turning Point would like you to believe, that some of them don't even exist. So out of a list of like 3,000 chapters, which, and in the video, she doesn't specify between college and high school. So it makes it kind of difficult. And then
that may be true because they were trying to open up the colleges, so they might be fudging on their numbers, particularly, they were trying to open up in high schools. So particularly when it comes to the high schools, they may be fudging on their numbers because they're losing even with the colleges that they had. So, yeah, it's, I mean, Charlie Kirk was the driving force of TPUSA. When you hear some of the people who worked with him or for him, you know, his management style was completely different from what's going on. I mean, that firing, there was the firing of that girl of like, you know, goodbye. I mean, I know how they're doing that. I mean, I've been horrified. One time I told my brother I worked for a little while for 2 lawyers. They were from Iraq. I forget if Iraq or Iran. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. I'm getting more information of what the problems are in the legal profession. But anyway, when they, and I mean, it was, they were just starting out and they didn't have the money to hire me in the first place. And I kind of knew that. So, you know, they were getting rid of me because they didn't have the money. But it was just that I was horrified in the way that they did it. You know, this is a small-time operation. These guys, they had me in a tiny little office next door to their little office. And, you know, small-time operation. This is, but it was, you would have thought that this was like secrets of some corporation. And just, it was one of these things that, like the way that this young girl was fired. I forget what her name was and exactly what the incident was, but it was just like goodbye. And that happened in one of these restaurants, the one where the American Indian got offended when she told me she had American Indian blood. I said, oh, which tribe, where from? And that was racist. I'm like, what what happened here? So these strong arm tactics, ooh, that's going on and that's gotta stop. That's the feminist in the HR who put that shit in there.
She also is talking about how Turning Point as a 501c3 isn't supposed to be political, and then she's throwing up clips of Turning Point Action, which Turning Point Action is the political arm. Yes. So you're being deceitful right from the beginning, you know? So she is investigating these chapters, and from what she said, she called 72 schools, but like I said, she didn't really say whether they were the college ones or the high school ones. I think they were the high school ones. And she said out of 72, only 7 of them could be confirmed. And she's trying to make this seem somehow nefarious when there could be many reasons why a Turning Point chapter may be listed and is no longer there. Maybe the kids graduated. Maybe they opened one and...
There could be many reasons that they're fudging numbers. There's usually only one reason why people are fudging numbers.
You know, quit after a while. And especially since the assassination of Charlie Kirk, some people probably pulled out due to safety reasons. They don't feel safe having a Turning Point chapter. So that's something, because I just found that video like 2 days ago, and that's something that I want to look into more myself, is how many of these Turning Point chapters are really active. And
it's because they don't feel safe. It's not nobody is questioning what's going on in Turning Point since Charlie Kirk's death. It's just, they don't feel safe. This is to promote, oh, see, this is why we need more military. It's just like with Trump and his ballroom. Charlie Kirk got assassinated. This is why we need the ballroom. We had the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting. This is why we need the ballroom.
The whole point is to point out fraud. If Turning Point isn't giving these chapters any money, then what difference does it make if the numbers are a little off anyway?
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things, as you pointed out, she goes in, she creates a Turning Point chapter fraudulently, by the way. She uses a bunch of AI footage. She uses a fake address. So basically what she's doing is she's, Turning Point to create one of these chapters requires some bona fides from you, some proof of your existence. And normally that includes, some TV, some footage, pictures, addresses, school names, all those things. You upload it there. I don't know how much time they spend vetting this, but she literally uploaded like AI footage. She fraudulently created this stuff and was like, oh, look what I did. I just created a fake chapter.
Right.
And there's more to it. And it should be taken a look at for sure. I mean, again, I don't know.
She's like, look, I just created a fake chapter. I mean, that should be raising some eyebrows instead of, oh, isn't that funny?
There's lots of explanations here, but what it doesn't prove is that, TPUSA is trying to fraudulently say that there's X amount of chapters when there's not. Like you just stated, there's lots of reasons why these chapters might have been started right before or right after Charlie Kirk's death, and maybe there was no follow through because of all the reasons that you listed. People leaving, people just, I see people start businesses all the time. They create an LLC and they never do anything with it. So anyways, these are things.
And there's lots of fraud going on because of that. That was one of the things that Candace was showing, and what Erica Kirk's mother needs to be looked into a bit more. I mean, this is common practice. I mean, for years, people, when I was living abroad, like, oh yeah, you Americans, you just, declare bankruptcy right and left. Yeah, it is one of the problems here. People, just, oh, well, I don't care. I'll just declare bankruptcy and start a new company.
That happen in reality. And this is a company that hated Charlie Kirk, or an organization that hated Charlie Kirk before Charlie Kirk was killed. I'm not willing to go as far to say that they had anything to do with it. But when we start looking at, armed quarters of SLC, like all of these different people and organizations are tied into this. We see that there is a direct linkage between.
He wants to, since he doesn't want the military to be tied into it, he's going to come up with all sorts of alternative theories.
UNF America and Destiny. There's a lot of suspicious things that took place with Destiny when Charlie Kirk was killed. But the fact is like, I don't even know if it's possible to get evidence other than just start pointing fingers like the other side does. And I'm not willing to do that. They don't care because they're unethical and all they care.
Okay, wait. I don't think it's even possible to get evidence except start pointing fingers like the other side is doing. Gary does not know how to look for evidence. He just knows he gets, upset and he points a finger. And his wife feeds into that.
It's by any means necessary. And that's not how we operate. So just going out there and speculating all the heaven and back while you're basically accusing people of murder directly or indirectly is not something that anyone should participate in.
Right. And when she was on the phone with one of those schools, to me, it sounded like the person on the other end of the phone was a little too, happy that there was. And she's like, oh yeah, no, I can assure you, we've never had a Turning Point chapter here. You know what I mean? And that was out of the 72 schools that she supposedly contacted.
Well, of course she was happy. She's trying to prove her point, and somebody's affirming that she's right. She's gonna be happy.
I think she showed, she aired that one conversation, and like I said, the woman on the other end of the phone sounded like she wouldn't have wanted a Turning Point chapter at the school in the first place. You know what I'm trying to say? Like,
you're basically saying you don't even think they call it legitimate, more or less.
Right.
So, and that's the problem with all this. And there's so many people that are so biased to begin with. They'll believe anything, any fresh meat that's thrown at them. They require no evidence. They require nothing that's verifiable. They'll take anonymous sources with unverifiable information and believe an entire narrative. And there's no way to say. I'm not saying that these things aren't happening. What I am saying is that we don't know the reason why. And I don't think that TPUSA necessarily has time to go around and make a bunch of fake. And I don't even see the point of it.
Wait a second. See, I don't say that these things aren't happening. We just don't know the reason why. And we shouldn't go around questioning. Of course you should. Something weird's happening here. You come up with different theories. You're not going to jump to a conclusion. You might jump to the wrong one. You come up with theories. You investigate. You look at evidence. Could this be a possibility? A lot of times, if you're researching something and looking, for evidence of some wrongdoing, a lot of times you'll go down a road and there's nothing there. Okay, well, let's go back to square one and see, pick up another trail, pick up another lead. That's how you investigate. You don't just, the authorities will take care of it. They'll take care of it. We all know they're very, very, very diligent, and they're very, very good at everything that they do. They're experts. They're filled with experts. All of these people have degrees from some of the finest universities in the country, which are the finest universities in the world. Don't worry.
Why would they go around and make a bunch of fake chapters? It just takes time and money that they don't have when they're out doing many other things and consumed with everything else that they are currently consumed with.
It doesn't take much time. You can't imagine how easy it was to do.
One of the things I just did is, we have a lot of these different people that are involved in these types of, that are involved and somehow have inserted themselves into the Charlie Kirk conspiracy. And these are not good faith actors. And this is where this really comes down to me. It's like, comes down to it for me.
How does he know?
When you have Z. Cohen Sanchez, who has always been a left-wing radical activist, and now they're doing some sort of, investigation, it undermines the credibility of that to begin with.
It undermines the credibility of what? I don't understand.
These are so many of these people that hated Turning Point to begin with. They are the farthest left possible. And then you have these people that are allegedly that were on the side of Charlie Kirk, and now they're just trying to, get rich exploiting his dead body, like Project Constitution, like we're going to talk about Elizabeth Lane in a moment, and Candace Owens, Barron Coleman, Jesse Young, all of these people. It's very obvious to me what's going on when they start linking up with UNF America Tour. I don't know else how to say that.
Yeah, and the UNF America Tour in itself, it says right on its website that, it was created to be basically the antithesis to Turning Point. It wants to be the left version of TPUSA. And we saw the clips with Dean, following Charlie around to campus tours and harassing him. And we're going to trust the people who run that organization to do an investigation into Turning Point fraud. Why didn't they do that when Charlie was still alive? And I find it hard to believe that Turning Point was getting away with much of anything, especially under the Biden administration. I mean, if they were doing anything, I'm sure the Biden administration.
Trump even said, Charlie Kirk even said that he was so relieved when Trump won the elections because he was afraid he was going to go to jail if Kamala Harris won. And they're going to normalize how these nonprofits are structured and how they do have these different nonprofits, TPUSA, to get around that you can't lobby with a nonprofit. And this is, it's like, but, there's nothing wrong with how this is put together. Do you people have absolutely no morals? What's wrong with you?
Would have been right on that. And, Erica, it's just been basically not even it was just about school time when Charlie was assassinated because, the tour had just started. So Erica has been CEO for one school year and under the most horrific circumstances. So really, whatever happened under Charlie's watch. So you guys are diminishing Charlie, but these UNF America people, they never liked Charlie in the first place, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, and that's something that I've talked about. We've had other people on here talking about it as well. Like ultimately all the stuff there, like when you're talking about with Dances with Wolves or Wolves in Finance, whatever that AI guy is, and he's talking about all the discrepancies between a 501c3, 501c4, which we've had people on here to talk about. Basically, folks, one of the things that we've kind of touched on already is as a 501c3, you can't get into politics. But what you can also have is a 501c4. It is a nonprofit. That is.
This is how you get around it. And they used to say, like, this is normal. No, it's not normal.
Allows you to engage in political action. And when you have someone like Charlie Kirk, that's part of both of those. For instance, when you are putting on AmFest, which I'm sure was primarily funded by their 501c4, they sit there and conflate that, and they'll tell people, oh, well, they're a 501c3. They can't engage in politics, and yet here they are doing that. So it's illegal. They should be investigated and all of these other things. But what they don't understand is, like, they're also part of the 501c4. They can, like, switch hats at any time that they want and engage in political discussions, just like they do all throughout AmFest and many of their other. I mean, honestly, even in this debates and things like that, those are all politically driven, right? So, like, in Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action are kind of, and you can say that, well, it shouldn't be like that. Well, it is like that. Like, you can disagree with how that system is set up, but he can basically switch hats doing those things anytime he wants. So that's what's going on with that.
You can disagree with how the system is set up, but that's how it is. And that's precisely why Gary Melton doesn't want people like me in the conversation. Now, you know, Baron Coleman, Candace Owens, what are y'all's agenda? I mean, that's another can of worms. But it is what it is. When they pull out that "it is what it is" card, I just say, you know what? When I was young, instead of "it is what it is," when somebody fucked with us, we said, "eat shit and die." Because it was right after the civil rights movement, so there was more of a sense of the rights of workers and, you know, tenants. Oh, landlords are getting away with shit that never would have flown in the 80s. Same thing with with employers. I mean, I'm just like, never. I was a young snot-nosed brat. Who didn't have the experience that I have now. But I'm just like, no. I don't accept "it is what it is," because the people who are not pulling out the "is what it is" to defend activity that is undermining and meant to undermine the Constitution and rule of law in the country, so that we need more military and more police. And this is precisely, it exposed the conflict of interest there of Gary Melton and all of the other military people.
And they try to conflate those things, and they just confuse people because people don't know how these things work. So it's an easy sell. It's a logical argument for an illogical concept or position. That's what they do. And I just want to show everybody here. I pulled up the UNF America Tour, and I want you to look down here at the bottom. Look, platform paid for by Act Blue. I mean, this is a left-wing, this is a Democrat-ran organization. It's funded, created. This is all one big political psyop that also happens to be useful to our foreign adversaries as well. You have all of these different interest groups that are converging on this one thing that happens to be the center of.
The foreign adversaries, they're taking advantage of the fact that the Republican and the Democratic Party are so consumed with greed and desire for fame and fortune that they're taking advantage of it and adding fuel to the fire, because if we self-destruct, more power for them.
Of this is Candace Owens, and they are absolutely teaming up with them because Candace wants to destroy for TPUSA, I think, literally mostly out of resentment, anger, and jealousy, and they're just along for the ride. Like, it works out for us because by attacking TPUSA now,
TPUSA is destroying itself. Candace, even a successful podcaster, and all of these podcasters, they're not the ones destroying TPUSA. It's the management over there under Erica Kirk.
It also attacks Charlie's legacy and everything that he was able to accomplish. It also undermines the Trump administration and their efforts. It also fractures the right. It also, if it's successful, it will ensure that we lose the midterms and ultimately lose in 2028. And all of these organizations and entities, whether we're talking about countries in Europe, whether we're talking about,
all he talks about is the elections, the losing in the elections. We got to prevent from losing in the elections. That's all these people care about.
China, Russia, Iran, or Act Blue, the DNC. It's a win-win for everybody. So of course they're going to artificially boost this. Of course they're going to share her content and promote her. Of course they're going to get her views. Of course they're going to get her to 6 million subscribers. And these people that think they're right-wing and fighting for justice for Charlie are just useful idiots. Oh, there you go.
Yep, yeah, exactly. Nope, I'm still here. I was listening. Yeah, you are exactly right. Yeah, no, I think most of the people that watch Candace now are the people who never liked Charlie in the first place. I've seen it in the comments, in her comment section. So I never liked Charlie, but I'm here for this.
And I played that the other day when I read Charlie's letter to Bibi Netanyahu. The first thing I started it off with was going back to his old tweets that were, from 2025 and going through and just showing everybody that all these people that are now fighting for Charlie's legacy and, want to make sure that justice for Charlie are the same people that were down in his comments calling him all the things that we are told now, that we're paid for by Israel, that we're a traitor, we're, the worst things.
Fighting for Charlie's legacy. No, you're trying to turn Charlie into this martyr and sweep under the carpet the fact that he had it with Israel and said, after the genocide that we saw in Gaza, y'all, you have played your card too many times.
Possible, we're a goy, we're this, we're that, like all of the same things that they say about us now and people that are fighting for the truth. They were saying about Charlie a year ago, right up to the time that he was killed. And you know what? I think we're in good company, as far as I'm concerned. You want to call me the same things that you call Charlie Kirk, it means I'm on the right side of everything. I'm on the side of God. I'm on the side of this country. I'm on the side of truth. I'm on the side of history. So, you know what? If you want to say those things about me, fine, send it.
See, this is how he justifies. He doesn't know how to debate. He doesn't know how to have an intelligent conversation. I'm on the right side. I have God, country, and religion on my side. I mean, like that. Somebody comes out with that and you're like, oh my God. One of these Bible waving Christians who justifies everything that they do, and there are some real horror stories in there with the Bible or the flag. And it really is sacrilegious, both to the Bible and the flag.
It's just the amount of attack and the ferociousness of the attack on TPUSA and Erica kind of just led me to believe that it's not organic and it's coming from an evil place. Because I think when Charlie was assassinated, like I know you've talked about this before, there was a revival in this country, and we and the right united, and the devil didn't like it, and the devil.
Oh, see, this is she just hit it on the nail. Why Charlie was assassinated, or one of the reasons. There was a moment that the right united behind the assassination of Charlie Kirk. That's it made up in our head, but that's a narrative that they're going to be pushing. That the death of Charlie Kirk, this is why he was martyred and sacrificed. His death was able to unite the right and rally behind Trump and assure Trump's success. Now, what, Candace, did they not count on Candace coming in? Or did they count on Candace coming in and Candace is part of the PSYOP and it's just to detract attention away from what's going on in the financial markets? Because that's where they don't want to be looking, and the economies.
Democrats didn't like it, and now they're teaming up to trash to try and undo everything that was happening.
No, I could agree more. And another good indicator for all this, I was trying to pull up. I saw a new one coming around today. That's because I'm searching. Let me see. Let me try to find this. But a good indication of this is all the Erica Kirk AI videos that they're having to create. Right? They have to create these false perceptions. They can't stick with reality. They can't stick with the truth. They have to create all of these crazy AI videos. This is a great example of one right here. And these morons actually think this stuff is true. That's the wild thing about this. Let me throw this up there. This is a great example, one that was going around. People were saying, they believe it. Look, and look down here. Do we see any freaking community notes? No. Like, that's another thing that's crazy to me. Like, these people can say anything they want about Erica Kirk, TPUSA, and I never see community notes. I never see that. But you say get one little thing, one little detail wrong in a post, and you'll get hit with community notes. But I got somebody posted something about I know what it was. I was talking about, I showed a picture of Candace Owens fishing, and I put down it was like 15 days. It was actually like a month after he was killed. I got the date wrong. It was again just a mistake on my part. It had no relevance to what I was trying to say. But I was like, what stage of grief is this? Could you imagine if like 20, 30 days?
He's constantly making these gaffes, but it's no big deal. When he makes a mistake, it's no big deal. But when Candace makes one, oh Lordy, Lordy, Lord, it is the end of the world.
Days after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, Erica Kirk is out on a fishing boat fishing for like a week and a half. Could you imagine what was being said? But the person that loved him the most, that was his best friend in the world, that just happens, she doesn't even know what his kids look like. such a dumb thing to say. He's my best friend.
And you remember, she took that trip because she had to get away to go cry for 2 weeks. Remember?
Yeah.
But her Candace's grief has changed. She said at first that
I have my questions about that trip. Where'd she go? What'd she do? I mean, it could. That's a stretch. That's a stretch. That Candace would be involved in that the whole thing was a psyop and fake. I mean, this gets into Jesse on Fire theory that Charlie Kirk is still alive, and Kelly Rayburn buys into that one. I don't really buy into that one, but that's a point that keeps on in my mind. Well, where'd she go? Where'd she go? What'd she do? Because also, I remember one time she said she didn't like fishing. It was Charlie who liked fishing. Yet she went fishing. That was what I found odd. I actually listened to all of this stuff.
she couldn't function for the first 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But then she was doing her show, so we were like, that's not cutting it. So then she said, oh, well, when I went to Wyoming, that's when I was really crying. And then we have the picture, of the one you're talking about where she's, smiling with her fish. So, yeah, what stage of grief was that?
Yeah. And here's some of these other ones, like these. And it's unreal to watch all of these different AI videos. Here's another one. Here's Eric Kirk entrance at TPUSA All-American Halftime Show. Finally, we got a there. This is AI-generated video. It has 2.3 million views. People actually believe this was Erica Kirk last night. And this is the one there's a video right of this. AI created this is not Erica Kirk, but here they are trying to say and create this false narrative that where's the original? I think they said this was like a week after he was killed or a couple days after he was killed. But again, this is what they do. They're creating a false narrative, and they have to do it with overtly fake things. But these people eat it up. They eat it up.
Yeah, I mean, they can't find anything legitimate on Erica. If there really was anything to find about Erica, they would have found it already, because all of the Candace cultists are out there digging and have been. And everything they've come up with has, been able to be debunked, or it's like this and it's just completely fake to begin with.
Yeah. No, folks, it's all one big psyop, and it's all they got.
That is a false statement. Everything that they've come up with has been debunked. See, those are the type of statements that you're like, well, can you explain to me how it's been debunked? Like, what has been debunked? Who debunked it? I mean, it's ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous.
You got is what is actually fake and gay. Let me hit a couple of comments real quick. Candace, for legal reasons, has to switch targets, hence why she stopped the French Bryan claims. She needs more dramatic changes to keep her show popular, like Euphoria. She needs to shift fire. Erica will be the last suit. I hope so. She sounds like a new version of the Zeitgeist documentary. I didn't see that. I don't know what you're talking about. If anybody has context of that. And by anybody, Jen or Shannon, if you know what the Zeitgeist documentary is, I haven't seen it. I think Hunter and his groups were following Charlie. They're there for a purpose, so they're not stalking. Obviously, they didn't know someone was going to shoot a rifle at all. Maybe. Okay. I mean, that's fine, but they were following them around. And again, Hunter Kozak was part of that. I don't know if saying that they're there for a purpose. I'm not saying that they were stalking him necessarily, but I think they were there to troll TPUSA. That was the entire point of what their group was doing. Candace defending Tyler from the get-go was suspicious. It was extremely suspicious. And even she said that she thinks he was involved. She said this multiple times now, but she's never kind of fleshed that out. She's never explained how he was involved. And, why was he 3.5 hours from home? Why did he have a rifle there? That was another big thing I'm going to show you guys here.
The thing is she doesn't have to explain how he was involved in the trial. And Baron Coleman has pointed this out. The only thing that Tyler Robinson has to demonstrate was that he didn't shoot a gun that killed Charlie Kirk. That's the only thing that has to be. Gary Melton keeps on pulling this out with all of the dumb bimbos he brings on, that they have to give us, Candace or anybody else, you've got to give us another alternative other than the one of Tyler Robinson. You have to give it with all of the proof and everything like that. You're not allowed to discuss anything. You're not allowed to investigate anything, but you're supposed to give us an alternative. That's not how due process works. That's how witch hunts work.
That's been going around that Tyler Robinson wasn't even a gun guy. I also need to get Jane Doe on here at some point as well. So Jane, if you're down in the comments, I'm about to give you a quick shout out as well. But let me find this post because this is important. If not, I'll just go straight to Jane Doe and what she has uncovered.
Candace defending Tyler from the get-go was suspicious. That's a bit suspicious. A lot of people were like, wait a second, particularly when all of the ballistics people, including Gary Melton, said it's not possible that a 30-06 wouldn't have done more damage than this little hole in Charlie's neck. Also, was that enough to have killed him? Because who is trying to jump out of the car, get out of the car? What is going on in the car between UVU and the hospital? That's another question. I'm like, we've got no answer, no discussion and no answers on that. Ask the people who were in the car. What happened? What was going on?
Here we go. Make sure I'm showing you guys this. Get rid of this real quick. So Jane Doe, posted this. This is from recently released search warrants. You guys can go check those out. But Tyler Robinson gained apartment and Apple account warrants. Apple data linked to Lance Twig accounts tied to the photo showing Tyler's handwritten letter before it was burned. Apartment search warrant documenting items seized from the apartment, including the burnt letter recovered from the trash. The warrants provide a clear picture of Tyler's letter to Lance. Letter from Luna, all that stuff is good. But let's get down here for just a minute. 2 boxes of Remington 30-06 cartridges, 5 30-06 cartridges, 1 etched test shot, 15 cartridges, empty plastic Ruger gun box, Smith & Wesson magazines, revolver and holster, a passport, a 22 Henry rifle, 22 Winchester rifle, 22 Rossi long rifle. And, the crazy thing is, and what I wrote up here, Diligent Denizen, who is another grifting scumbag, said that Tyler's grandmother claimed that he wasn't a gun guy. And that's why we find all of this gun stuff, right? Both actual firearms and accessories. Like most grandparents, she clearly didn't know everything about Tyler. But sure, reject the mountains of physical evidence and cling to a conspiracy fantasy with zero proof. We've reached full-on flat Earth territory. And I think that's true. Like they will accept nothing. I had another person tell me, oh, this is all gossip. While she was defending what, I was like, wow, this is ironic. This lady's defending what Diligent Denizen heard from the grandmother, which is literally gossip. It's literally gossip. While she won't accept the evidence that we have in the search warrant. And you can call this evidence of whatever else, but they're not going to present this stuff and then it not be there. You know what I mean? Like pretending that the evidence presented in court documents is equal to these just fantasies that people come up with and gossip and hearsay. Like, there's a hierarchy to evidence. And if it's in a court document that they're going to have to substantiate in court and they have to turn over to the defense, that's a lot stronger evidence than you saying, the grandmother said he wasn't into guns. Like, shut up. Like, most grandparents haven't seen their kids. They don't know what's going on with their grandkids' lives. And of course, by default, they're going to be
And why do most kids not know their grandparents and have no contact with their grandparents? Is that how your family is run, Gary? Gary, as I say, he has, I don't know if he's just playing stupid. I think he is, because sometimes he'll be like, oh no, you have to have evidence and you have to show evidence. And then he'll say exactly what Candace is saying.
extremely protective of their grandchildren. That's just how the world works.
Yeah, it's like, excuse me. Yeah, if it was in the indictment and it's been in the legal documents, they are going to have to at some point prove that or show that. And like you said,
this is precisely what they are trying to avoid, and why the defense is upset, as well as other people who are following this, because the FBI is dragging its heels and handing over the evidence that the defense needs to examine. I mean, everybody should be like, what are you people doing here? But no, these guys, let's just drink and pass out Kool-Aid.
Defense is going to get to look at all of it. So even all the stupid nonsense about the discords being fake or the text messages being fake, you don't think the defense would call that out? I mean, obviously they would if they believe.
This is what the defense is trying to do, but without the metadata. They need the metadata, and that's what the prosecution doesn't want to hand over, and that's what's what's going on here.
For a second that any of that evidence was fake, they would be having it thrown out.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, you're absolutely right.
That's what they're trying to do, right? That's where they are right now. If this girl was following the case,
right, and that's why these people, what they're resorting to at this point, now that so much more information has come out and it's not going to be challenged, is I think we're going to see more and more people pivot to that the defense
evidence was fake, they would be having it thrown out.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, you're absolutely right, and that's why these people, what they're resorting to at this point, now that so much more information has come out and it's not going to be challenged, is I think we're going to see more and more people pivot to that the defense is in on it. I mean, that's good. That's their only way out at this point. And then it's going to grow into like everybody's in on, the parents are in on, like they're going to continue to push this no matter what. And they're going to come up with, again, a bunch of reasonable arguments to believe something completely unreasonable. Well, what if this happens? What if this happens? What about this? They're trying to convince you of the illogical by using the logical argument. That's how it works.
Nobody's trying.
Colton says directly, Gary, I know you rub shoulders.
They're just laying out facts and evidence that they found. Everybody is still trying to figure out what's going on, and I keep on pointing out, if all of these people investigating this, if they would work together and not have their egos directing them, then they would probably get farther.
With officers, by the way, Colton, 1R is fine. That's all you need. It would be good for some people to know the difference with circumstantial evidence, hard evidence, and eventually how contributors work.
Yeah.
What we need to do is we'll have the bearded lawyer come out again. We can go through some of those things. Just a real quick example of, and I think most people do know circumstantial evidence. For a while there, one of the most powerful things that Candace Owens and other people were using, the strongest example that they were using to convince people that TPUSA was in on it, was Mikey McCoy's reaction after the gunshot. Okay, that is clearly circumstantial evidence. That suddenly he turned and started walking away. That's circumstantial evidence. Of course. And they built a lot of narratives out of that one thing. Now Candace kind of come full circle and saying, "Oh, Mikey McCoy's in." Wait
a second, you got this, that, all of it is circumstantial evidence. Hard evidence is your smoking gun. Most things in an investigation are going to be circumstantial evidence that is like, well, that's weird. Well, that's weird. That's weird. Now we have to look for the hard evidence to prove what we think happened here. It's called an investigation.
One of the group, after she accused him of a lot of different things, she's always constantly switching targets when it's convenient. So, that's circumstantial evidence. What is real evidence is when we have fingerprints, when we have DNA on the crime scene, when we have a screwdriver left at the scene of the crime with Tyler Robinson's DNA. Another great example of actual
DNA. I always pull out the Amanda Knox case in Italy, where they said that she was guilty of the crime because her DNA was found in the kitchen knife of the house where she lived. Of course, it was on the kitchen knife. Same thing here. If this is Tyler Robinson's, his grandfather's gun, his DNA is going to be on it. His grandfather's DNA is going to be on it. That is absolutely no proof of wrongdoing because that DNA is expected to be found there. The question is, how did the gun get there? And what other DNA on the gun does not belong to Tyler Robinson, does not belong to his father or anybody else in the family or friends who would have touched that gun? You got any DNA of an unknown person? That's where you need to be looking.
Evidence, hard evidence is material evidence is we have electronic evidence through the surveillance footage. So we are going to see exactly where Tyler Robinson,
the surveillance
his movements throughout.
I mean, you can't tell that that's Tyler Robinson. Again, that's not proof.
Maybe very soon I'll have Gray Hughes back on. We need to watch his new video where he created a bunch of animation that's very that is synced up with a moving Tyler Robinson and what you would essentially see from the surveillance footage, his movements, and he has.
I'm gonna have to see that animation. Putting Tyler Robinson doing this stuff, like an animated Tyler Robinson, in order to prove that it was Tyler Robinson in the videos. Oh Lord, I'm going to see that.
Kind of time down to the second. So that's the difference between circumstantial evidence and hard evidence. But then there's just make believe, right? And that make believe goes into just filling in information gaps with whatever you want.
And that's the one thing I wanted to say about the whole Mikey McCoy when she was after him in the beginning. She kept saying he calmly walked away. Well, first of all, it's a video and it's kind of from far away. Yeah. And every indicator you need to be able to tell if somebody.
Wait a second. It's a video and it's kind of far away. We know this is Mikey McCoy. I mean, there's enough video that's close up and stuff that we know this is Mikey McCoy. And yeah, you can see him calmly walking away, just like the guy running off the roof is not calmly running across the roof, but we don't know who that is. So the video where you got the guy running off the roof, that clear evidence that Tyler Robinson was involved, even though you have no proof that that was Tyler Robinson. And then this other video where she makes excuses. I mean, here's the double standards.
He's calm, which would be their heart rate. Are they sweaty? You can't tell that from a video.
Oh, excuse me. Shots have just been fired. I mean, somebody who's not running or trying to figure out or hiding or something like that, that is suspicious behavior. The fact that shots are fired, his friend just got shot, and he's on the phone and walking away, and that's not suspicious. We can't tell if he's sweating or not. That would be an indication. I mean, really, come on.
No. So saying he calmly walked away, that drove me insane.
He calmly walked away.
And everybody reacts to trauma so differently. Some people become hysterical.
Yeah. But a shot gets fired. Look at, go ahead, look at all of the footage out there. I'm sure we have much footage about how people are reacting once a shot gets fired in a public place, because it's happening a lot. So I'm sure we have substantial data there and eyewitnesses before everybody had their frickin' phones and was filming everything that can say, oh no, when a shot is fired, normal reaction is like take cover real quick or run. The problem is you're kind of like, normally you're going to take cover real quick because you got to figure out which way you're going to run to. Because again, when the shot was fired, it was you had this echo thing going on. Excuse me. And so you're not going to really know. And some people were like, I thought it was a pretty record at first. So your normal reaction is going to be to hide and figure out where you're going to go from there. Not get on your phone and just walk calmly away. No, we can see a person who is walking calmly, robustly, a bit in a hurry, but not panicking. Panicking, usually those people are running. My God.
Some people just shut down. Some people are in shock. And, for Candace to say that that's some sort of indicator that TPUSA or Mikey McCoy had foreknowledge of what was happening, it's just like, you're an idiot if you believe that. I don't know how another kinder way of saying it.
If you don't believe it, if you see Mikey McCoy's and don't find that bizarre, you're the one who's the idiot. No, I mean, come on.
Things. You're just a moron.
No, you're the moron.
But yeah, the other thing that they've done is they've taken bits and pieces of circumstantial evidence like that, and now they've added a whole new narrative into this that TPUSA was involved. He had foreknowledge. Like, you're just filling in blanks with stupidity and just using your overactive imagination and creating narratives that didn't exist prior to that. So, that's what a lot of this has done. And then, my God, you start throwing in the French. We've never seen a bit of evidence the French was involved. We've never seen an email. All we got was anonymous sources with unverifiable information. And now the French are involved in this. We take someone that doesn't know anything about the military or operations.
Candace did mention that, but I think she just mentioned it in passing. She really hasn't gone on about that. Why is very obsessed with it? Guilty conscience, or what's going on there?
Or military operations or clandestine operations, and says stupid things like, well, look at all these people that were wearing maroon shirts. Maybe maroon shirts were the color of the day.
Gary's also got to know that the French, like it's the French Foreign Legion, which is their intelligence, is like filled with more criminals than anybody else. It's a pretty low life thing. So that's why he's probably on the defensive when it comes to the French.
You're going to do clandestine operations. You're not going to be color coding. I mean, it's so dumb and bizarre. Another good example of something just low IQ and dumb is the Google Trends thing that, Barry Coleman got quite famous for. But Google Trends are not a historical record. They can't be reproduced. It's just the dumbest thing possible. But these people are desperate to believe some of these things. And, it's concerning. I said this in a post the other day.
Instead of addressing they're morons. That's stupid. They're stupid. If you repeat something often enough, people will believe it. This is propaganda 101.
It's number one is concerning how many people will believe total nonsense. And then what's even more concerning is even when presented as facts, or presented with facts, how difficult it is for these people to stop believing things that are just absolutely proven untrue. Like, they just want to hold on to that.
Right. You can't, when they come into the chat and
there are a few of those who it's like, that already has been disproven. It's like the little gun theory that came at first. Somebody was saying, oh, see, he's got a gun in his palm. It's a palm gun. And no, you wouldn't be able to aim it, doing it from under your arm. You'd be shooting it, crap shooting. I mean, that's Hollywood. Somebody who's like, oh yeah, here, look, and it hits on the mark. That's Hollywood. Yeah, that was one theory, and people have come back that it's like, okay, you guys, we looked at that. It's not possible. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Yeah, there's been some of that. You get that wherever you go.
You have any kind of dialogue with them, it doesn't work. They are not open to the facts. They believe what they believe, whether it be that they hate Erica Kirk or that Turning Point was in on it or whatever, their thing is, because each one of them, has their own little thing that they pick at.
Yeah.
And you try and push them on it.
I mean, I love it when all of these podcasters start telling, saying, oh, they just have their own agenda. They are just doing it for money and everything like that. I'm like, you all are all like that. Come on.
Like, okay, well, what evidence do you have? you never get an answer. They just come back at you with like another, you know, accusation. So it's kind of, it's all ridiculous.
They just come back with you. Well, here's my evidence. Oh no, that's just an accusation.
Like the court of law, the way we do investigations, the way accusations, everything has been like thrown upside down on its head. Law, journalism,
logic, reason, all those things.
Yeah, everything.
You know, the idea that you are innocent until proven guilty, we've switched that out with you're guilty until you prove your innocence to us. And by the way, we're going to take everything you provide us and we're going to create more content out of it.
See, Erica Kirk they want, you know, the presumption of innocence for Erica Kirk, a bunch of podcasters, but they don't want the presumption of innocence for Tyler Robinson, who's in a court of law. This is what like when they start pulling out the presumption of innocence stuff for Erica Kirk, I'm like one of those moments like you're like, these people are crazy. Absolutely crazy. They want presumption of innocence for the wife, who is usually put under scrutiny in any investigation. She's usually scrutinized. The first to be a suspect is the spouse, or the first to be questioned is a spouse. For two reasons. They might have something to do with it. Are they behaving bizarre? But also, they're probably going to have some information that's going to be helpful, even if they don't know it. You know, normally, there's nobody who knows more about what's going on in a person's life than their spouse. That's the way it should be. So, you know, there's two reasons that you're going to, you know, speak with the spouse and the people closest to a person who has been murdered, because statistically speaking, they might have something to do with it. And if they don't, you may be getting some information that would be important. Oh gosh, my screen's getting, oh shoot, sorry. I'm almost finished with this. It looks like my screen was, last thing I want to do is lose my computer and have to find
law.
As bad as this thing is, it's what I got. So yeah.
Journalism.
Logic, reason, all those things.
Yeah, everything.
You know, the idea that you are innocent until proven guilty, we've switched that out with you're guilty until you prove your innocence to us. And by the way, we're going to take everything you provide us and we're going to create more content out of it. And then we're going to tell you that's not good enough. And then we're going to make you give us something more, or we're going to double down on our accusation.
That's why when you're accused of something, you take the fifth. You know, if you don't trust the people you're involved with and you're not exactly sure what's going on and how you need to, I take the fifth. I take the fifth. I take the fifth. I take the fifth. You go out and you start mouthing out, then what you say can and will be held against you.
Again, it's just content creation through extortion. Like, that is the business model of these people. And like, for people to sit back and just say, oh, that's okay, no problem there, is a little bit crazy. The other thing I am going to get to, matter of fact, Tammy, I think this is an excellent idea to some extent, and I'll tell you, but Gray Hughes released part 2 today of Tiara walking to UVU, getting on the roof. We should watch it. He did a great job. Before we get to that, because I do want to bring that up and we'll do a little sneak peek. The other person that I'm sure most of you have run into, and I have worked a little bit behind the scenes, people have pointed out Elizabeth Lane. And there's some pretty good researchers out there that have reached out to me and was like, I cannot find anything on Elizabeth Lane. And I started researching Elizabeth Lane, and they're right. Like, I don't know if she's just this construct. I don't know if, I don't know. But what I do know is suddenly she's interviewing Tucker Carlson. We now know that she alleges that she was at the Pocahontas, I'm sure I said that wrong, the Pocahontas Hospital, whatever hospital it was that Charlie ended up at. And that is really strange, right? Suddenly she's there. I've heard that she's from Georgia, the country, not the state. But I've also heard people say, I've heard her speak Georgian, and she speaks it, she speaks with a really strange accent. It doesn't seem like it's a native Georgian accent. So I don't know where she's coming from. But when you start seeing Alexander Dugan, you start seeing these characters like Elizabeth Lane show up, and they're all in the same circles as Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, Elizabeth Lane. I mean, I'm kind of like, who are these? So there are some of these people who I'm like, who are foreigners. And I'm like, who are they? Where they come from? There's a guy, he sounds German or Dutch or something. And he does something. And I mean, very strange, very strange. That is something.
Many of these other people, like, you got to start looking at the Russian connection real quick. And I don't know, we need to, some of those are questions that need answering. And we need to know more about these people. I'm not saying dox them or any of these other things. I'm saying that these people deserve to be researched a little bit so that we can understand what's happening. Because Alexander Dugin is definitely a Russian propagandist. Nothing more, nothing less. And these people are buying into him wholesale. As a matter of fact, Candace talked about him like, oh, since you want to say that he's this, I'm more interested in next thing you know, she's going to Russia. So, you know, I don't know if you have anything else to add about.
Yeah, I sent an email to, we'll see if she responds, to Candace. And I said, Candace, can you confirm or deny that you will be going to Russia? And if so, will you be going with your children? And what would be the motive of your trip there? And I forget, I said, also, I forget, that was last night late, so I forget, but I was like, okay, you want to pull this shit. Hopefully Candace will confirm or deny it. I don't know why she would be going to Russia. I really don't.
Elizabeth Lane, that you might know that.
No, I just, when we were talking about it earlier, because Elizabeth
Mike Flynn down with that one.
Elizabeth Lane is from Russia, and isn't John Mappin too? But then I was thinking,
his wife is from Russia.
Yeah, the Hunter Biden, because I was like, why did she interview him?
Yeah, I don't get.
He was in Ukraine for whatever he was doing over in Ukraine.
Yeah,
which isn't exactly Russia, but it's very close.
Yeah.
So maybe that has, I don't know. I just wrote it down, for future reference, like the Elizabeth Lane, Hunter Biden, Candace, Russia.
No, there's definitely a link to all of that, and I'm not sure what it is. But there again, now we're talking about UNF America, which is clearly a product and an arm of the Democratic Party. And then now we suddenly have Hunter Biden doing this just completely promotional interview, not a single hard question. When we have Candace going back just a couple years ago, calling him a PDF, calling him a human trafficker, we know that he was selling influence, or at least there's a lot of evidence that he was allegedly selling influence and access to his father. Like, we're talking about the most corrupt son of a president, of the most corrupt president that's ever existed. All we got to do is look back at during his time in office, what we saw, the weaponization of the DOJ. We know that him and Hillary Clinton were involved in the DOJ, or the Russian dossier, the Russia hoax. We know we have Biden that was part of the lockdowns, January 6th. I mean, anything that you can possibly point to as an element of corruption is covered under Joe Biden. He's one of the most corrupt politicians to ever exist, and he has a long history of corruption. Never mind, also sexual assault and things like that. But what's a little bit interesting to me...
Joe Biden? Sexual assault? What? Oh, I think, yeah, inappropriate touching or something like that. I don't know. I mean... Joe Biden, I'm not sure. I don't know the man personally, so I really don't know. And I'm kind of on the fence about him because his wife, a lot of it is Dr. Jill.
Is the fact that we constantly hear from their side, this woke right, talking about the Epstein files. They can't get enough of it. They talk about it all the time. Well, how come they're hanging out with John Mappin, who first and foremost is this crazy Scientologist? And yes, John Mappin appears in the Epstein files. He's in the famous Black Book entry. He's listed on page 35 of Epstein's Little Black Book. This contact address book is not a client list. And I want to be fair, unlike what they would do, because they would blow this out of proportion and immediately point to he has guilt of something. But how come no one is asking him about this? He was clearly in his...
I'm fair, but my adversaries are not fair. Constantly is reaffirming that he's on the good side and the others are bad.
Address book. It could be completely benign, could be something very nefarious. Who knows? But what we've never heard is anyone challenge John Mappin on this. And this is the number one, this is the thing that they beat over everybody's head. Like, what about the Epstein list? You're protecting child pedos and all this other stuff. But yet here we have someone that's actually in the Epstein list, in the Epstein files, and he's never been challenged on it. Not once. Not once.
Right. And just like, the 2 videos I did about Candace's great uncle, he's in the Epstein files. Not for anything bad. He just happened to work at the Department of Planning and Natural Resources, which is where Epstein had to get his permits, to build on the island. So I found he's in there. And there's 2 other relatives of the Blythe.
But then there's also the first lady of, I mean, that's not from Candace's, Owen's family. Might be extended family. See, the thing is the Blydens, the Van something or other, that Van Holten, I think, but Van something or other, they're very common names there. So they're all pretty much related. In fact, you got the blacks and the whites, and it's the same thing with her family in the Carolinas. You got some blacks and the whites with the Owens name, and many of them have the common ancestries. So, but the first lady of the island is really involved was like very much involved with the stuff. It was going on under her watch, let's just say.
In there, but she's never even mentioned it. She actually, that whole branch of the tree, which this would be the grandmother that she lived with, these are her siblings, so they're all passed on now anyway. And that's how I put them together, was through the obituaries. And she's never even acknowledged that they're all from the Virgin Islands, and they're like right next to, and most of them were very, they're upstanding members of the Virgin Islands.
Well,
one of them
never acknowledged it. Has anybody ever asked her? I mean, has anybody ever asked her?
There's politicians, pastors, basically all the things she hates and complains about on her show. Oh, actually, her great uncle Roy was in the military, and he was a pastor. So, military pastor. So, of course, she's going to ignore it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think...
as I say, is she ignoring it? Has anybody pointed it out to her? She may be like, oh, gosh, yeah, you're right. Huh, yeah. Anybody's asked her.
The big takeaway here is, Candace Owens is going to Russia. Candace Owens is already in the same circles as Alexander Duggan. Candace Owens is now hanging around Elizabeth Lane. Where did those relationships start? Where did Elizabeth Lane come from? And how does this play into it? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's circumstantial evidence. That's what we're looking at right here. What I do want to do real quick is I do want to go over to Gray Hughes and just give you guys a quick preview of what's going on with that, because it is pretty darn interesting. So right here we have part 2 that he released today, part 1. I need to have him on so he can go through these, and I've been meaning to anyhow. But he goes through this entire timeline. Let me see what here he has. And he's put an animated version.
Okay. We're not seeing anything.
Gary, all we see is us.
Sorry. Hold on.
To almost 8:23 in the morning.
How's that?
So he drove up this direction. Now he may have parked for a minute or so, or just based off of traffic, it took him a while to get to the parking structure. So,
all right. So if you guys don't know, if you weren't here the other day for the briefing, he kind of gave us a sneak peek of what he's working on. Here he's created where we don't know where he was going, or we don't have video footage of him traveling, whether it's on foot or in a vehicle, using the different court documents and now the different search warrants that come out. He has added that animation in, and it just paints a very clear picture of what was going on and when it happened to the second.
Well, here he is driving down the street. Now, the bottom right-hand corner, just before that, that's the house that has the surveillance footage on it. And I have it sped up here. So he's just driving around. And I'm going to say it took him 5 minutes after driving by there of 3 different parts, and then I'll put them all together in one final video, but it was actually 10:07 or 10:08. Now I have a running clock down here. It's also keeping up with the 150% speed. And after that, garage door at the top corner is a surveillance camera. And as I always say, until next time, be safe out there.
All right, so that's part 1. I want you guys to go watch. I don't want to sit here and watch the whole thing. I don't want to take any views. I want you guys to go watch it. Here's part 2. We'll do a quick peek of what we have going on here.
So Tyler Robinson's walking right here. And when we get to that next driveway on the left, that's the driveway. Mother expressed concern to her husband that the suspected shooter looked like have a 360-degree image that I took.
So you can see, number 1, he's using the charging documents and other correlated material, and just to the minute, he's showing you exactly where he was or the best timeline possible of where approximately he was at the approximate time. And this was actually when Gray Hughes and I were both there. He may have filmed this the day before, he got there a day earlier than I, but a lot of this footage I know was filmed with me.
From exactly up in the air, within a foot or two of where that 360-degree camera is.
So the reason that you're seeing this footage so clear is because he took a drone and he put his 360-degree camera on it and put it right where the security camera that caught him. So now we have basically 4K footage. It's probably right now, this is probably 1080p, just the way it comes through on the video. But that person that's right there by that light pole is an animation that he's inserted into this and spent a lot of time and effort. So make sure you guys go give him a like. Hell, go give him a super chat.
The documents state that at approximately 12:02 hours, Robinson is observed walking on the north side of the Losi Center building, walking with the same gait as observed earlier. Robinson walks south on the sidewalk on the east side of the Losi Center building. Robinson enters the Losi Center building, and this is where I pick up my 360-degree video again. Almost his eyes, he's going through the door. Obviously, he probably walked slightly slower than that. And we don't know what Tyler Robinson was doing in the building from 12:04 to 12:15. It could be that he actually went out those back door and then took a right and walked a little bit. You can see the courtyard where Charlie Kirk spoke.
Yeah, so from in this corridor, you go up there to the right, you can actually reach the courtyard from right here. Or you can go straight out and ultimately go.
And he was doing his event. And maybe he watched that for a little bit, saw that he was on stage, and then came back and went up the stairs. So what I'm suggesting is after coming in here, we don't really know where he went, but it's possible that he went out here and turned to the right. You see in front of us right there? If you go to the right, that actually goes to a place where you can see the stage. And then Tyler Robinson walks up these stairs. At approximately 12:15 p.m., Robinson is observed walking up the stairs that lead to the common area adjacent to the Losi Center building. Robinson walks to a short concrete wall that separates the common area from the rooftop of the Losi Center building. Now, as you can see in that previous clip, there is a short wall that Robinson makes his way to. And it's very short. You can just basically step over it or just lean over and kind of roll into it. The documents state that at approximately 12:17 hours, Robinson climbs over the short wall and appears to crouch down on the north side of the wall of the rooftop, as you can see here in the video. At approximately 12:22 hours, Robinson stands up and starts running across the rooftop of the Losi Center building. Robinson runs to the west side of the rooftop and appears to scoot along the rooftop area as he gets closer to the edge of the rooftop. Now you'll see all of this in animated form. He gets closer to the edge of the rooftop, slows down, crouches down.
And kind of the point behind this is predicting what will be seen from this camera angle. That's what this is, folks. This is all on footage. This has all been captured. But, this is all the stuff that exists that they want to pretend don't exist.
And lays down.
A few weeks ago, there was a transgender actor, and ever since then, about 3 weeks later, this Charlie and Jay said that we should start talking about revoking gun rights for transgender. So, do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years? Too many.
The last one that they just showed, I'm not positive that there was somebody who's saying that there was a shooter or somebody on a rooftop that was in black military garb. So this is also where there's confusion over the video footage of who's up on the roof and which person you're talking about, because the last one they showed, my understanding, was this other person. And you did see somebody with jeans, but you still, we don't know who that person is. It's the video or the photos, because they don't show the video, of the person walking up the stairs. People have been looking at that and saying it's not Tyler Robinson. It's another person. So, there's no hard evidence that links Tyler Robinson. That's the burden of proof is on the prosecution. And they are not arriving at, without a reasonable doubt that Tyler Robinson did it. In fact, the reasonable doubt is that he did do it. You don't see who that is. That could be anybody.
And I want you to look at this picture on the right. This is a picture that I was literally down below when he was holding up his camera, and he captured these images. Like, and by the way, you can also, there's pictures of the FBI collecting evidence, and there's tags at all of these points. So we know that they saw this. We know this was collected as evidence. There's pictures of this, and here we are. I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks after the event, and those marks are still there in that soffit and fascia that we see there.
We are here live at Utah Valley State University.
So at 12:24:30 is when he reached the road. Let me see when the actual shot.
And we have no idea who the person
Place.
It's just there's so much. So before we had a flag and you had it to.
So it took him about a minute. Because at 12:24:30 he's already by the road. So in under a minute he's basically right there by the road.
We are here live at Utah Valley State University. There's been a shooting at the Charlie Kirk event, the TPUSA event. There has been a shooting.
All right. Well, you guys go give him a view on there. Make sure you throw a like on there, and if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe. He does such excellent work, folks. That stuff is so time consuming. It's really hard to even explain how much time it probably took. I mean, that probably took tens of hours just to create that. He's created a 3-part series with that. So make sure if you're interested in this case, I don't care if you're watching.
I love that thing. Is so time consuming. It's too complicated to even explain how. He and Jesse on Fire do that all the time.
You don't believe the Fed slop, you at least need to go watch that and just objectively watch it with an open mind and say, hey, is this more reasonable than some of the things that I believe? What was your thoughts on that, Shannon?
And
Yeah,
if I don't find it more reasonable, what will you admit that this is bullshit?
I mean, I think his work is amazing with that. Like I saw when he was on and showed you the little sneak peek the other day. But yeah, I don't see why it's so hard to understand, especially when it's late.
You know, Gary is platforming, you know, anybody who will agree with him. This woman, she has 213 subscribers. She's about twice as many as I do. I mean, I'm not saying just because she doesn't have a lot of subscribers, I mean, that doesn't mean anything. A lot of this stuff is these people have been given preference by the algorithms because they're producing content that will radicalize the audience. And that's what YouTube wants to do. That's what all of the social media platforms are really, in effect, if not by design, are doing. So I'm going to leave it at there. It's pretty much made the point, like what they're doing. Where's my little thing? Come on, honey, open this. There we go. I got a glare of the sun coming in, sorry. Okay, so that'll be it for today, or for this morning. Ciao.